I couldn't believe my own parents had frozen my entire future just because I refused to bow to their favorite son. The words hit me like a punch, my stomach twisting in anger and disbelief. They called it a family lesson, but really, it was a trap designed to humiliate me. Before I could even react, my phone buzzed. Share this story. Subscribe to see how I flipped everything upside down. From the moment I was told school was on hold, I felt every ounce of betrayal pierce through me. My parents, smiling as if they were handing me a gift, said, "Camila, you know the rules. Apologize to Ethan. Or no school, no college, nothing." Ethan, their golden boy, lounged nearby with that smug grin, the kind that made my blood boil. He had done nothing, yet he held all the power in my family's eyes. And I was supposed to grovel like a child. For weeks I walked the halls feeling invisible, pretending to be compliant while secretly planning every move. I didn't cry, I didn't plead, and I didn't bend. Every whispered insult from relatives, every mocking smile from Ethan, just fueled a silent fire inside me. I spent hours researching, learning, building something they would never expect while they were busy celebrating his latest empty victories. Then came the family dinner, the one where my parents announced to everyone how rebellious I had been, how disrespectful I was, and how Ethan was the model child they had raised perfectly. I listened, stone-faced, letting them believe they had won. But inside, I was already 10 steps ahead, waiting for the moment I would show them what years of quiet effort could create. I knew the perfect timing was coming, an event so public, so unforgettable that even my parents wouldn't be able to ignore the truth. And just as they clinked their glasses, congratulating Ethan for yet another imaginary triumph, I felt a surge of satisfaction knowing everything I had built in silence was about to explode into the open. The next morning, I walked into the living room with a calm they couldn't understand. My parents' faces twisted with that mix of pride and judgment they always wore when they thought they were in control. Ethan, lounging on the couch like a king, barely glanced at me. "Camila, ready to apologize yet?" he sneered, as if I hadn't spent months plotting my quiet revenge. I smiled, a slow, measured smile that made my parents pause. "Not yet," I said softly, letting the words hang in the air like a storm about to break. They exchanged worried glances, but I could feel their attention slipping. I was no longer the scared little sister. Every insult, every forced lecture, every belittling comment had fueled me. And now it was my turn to take control without them even realizing it. By the evening, I had quietly set the stage. Invitations for a family celebration went out, disguised as Ethan's graduation dinner, but little did they know, I had arranged something completely different. I had worked tirelessly, building my first company's prototype in secret, saving every cent, learning every skill my parents refused to teach me. They thought I was wasting my time, but I was building a silent empire that would leave them speechless. When we all gathered, the room buzzing with chatter about Ethan's supposed accomplishments, I carried a small device, a symbol of months of hidden work. My parents didn't notice at first, too busy fawning over their golden boy. But when I pressed a single button, the room fell silent. The live feed on the screen revealed every achievement I had quietly built, patents, contracts, even a fully funded startup ready to launch. Shock registered across their faces in real time. Ethan froze, his smug grin replaced by disbelief, and my parents' mouths opened and closed, like fish out of water. How is this possible?" My father stammered, trying to grasp the reality that the child they had mocked, the one they tried to control, had outsmarted them completely. And just like that, the underdog they had ignored for years stood taller than anyone in the room, while their beloved golden boy had nothing to show but a fake smile and empty applause. The air in the room was thick with tension. My parents couldn't move, couldn't speak, and Ethan looked like someone had just pulled the rug out from under him. I could feel the electricity of their disbelief. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small, I felt unstoppable. I stepped closer to the screen, letting everyone see the contracts, the bank statements, the proof that my hidden startup wasn't just an idea, it was thriving. Surprised? I asked softly, my voice calm but full of power. You spent years mocking me, pausing my life, expecting me to beg. But while you celebrated Ethan's fake victories, I built something real. Ethan stammered, trying to defend himself, but there was nothing to say. Every insult he had thrown at me, every time he had smirked while my parents scolded me, now echoed back in humiliation. This can't be real, he whispered, but I could see the panic creeping into his eyes. My parents fumbled over each other, their carefully maintained image of perfection crumbling in seconds. I wasn't done yet. The final twist was coming. I revealed that my company had already signed a deal that would make it publicly known in days, and that every investor, every client had only one name to associate with success: mine. The room went silent again, only this time. It wasn't just shock, they were witnessing the shift of power firsthand. Then, as I glanced at my father, I said, "Remember how you told me my life would stop until I apologized to Ethan?" Well, my life never stopped. It just got bigger, faster, and smarter, while you all were busy playing favorites. The words hit harder than any slap. Ethan looked down, ashamed, while my parents' jaws were clenched in a mix of anger and disbelief. The underdog had become the one they couldn't ignore, and there was no going back. The next few days were a whirlwind. News about my company's success started spreading quietly at first. Then fast emails, messages, even calls from old classmates who had laughed at me years ago. But I wasn't just enjoying private satisfaction. I was ready for the final showdown, the moment that would make my parents and Ethan realize how completely the tables had turned. It started with the family gathering. They had planned, pretending it was a celebration of Ethan's accomplishments. I walked in confidently, carrying a folder that held the proof of every contract, every deal, and every investor who had bet on me while they had doubted me. My parents greeted me with forced smiles, but I didn't flinch. I knew they could feel the shift in power, the silent authority I now carried. As everyone sat down, I began casually speaking about my startup, letting details slip out slowly, strategically. At first, they thought I was just boasting. But when I showed the first screen with the official partnership letters, whispers filled the room. Then came the shocking part. I revealed the revenue numbers, millions already secured, contracts with companies they had only ever dreamed of impressing. The expressions on their faces were priceless. My father's smug confidence had vanished, replaced by panic. Ethan, who had always acted untouchable, tried to interrupt, but I held up a hand. "Ethan, you always laughed at me, told me I'd never succeed, told everyone I was a failure. But here's the truth. Your victories were empty, and mine are real." I could see his smile crack, replaced with disbelief, then shame. Guests who once overlooked me now stared, captivated by the underdog's rise. Then came the final blow. I handed my parents the official legal documents naming me as the majority shareholder in a new venture, something they had never imagined I could achieve. Their faces went pale as they realized they had underestimated me for years. "Camila, My mother stuttered, but there were no words strong enough to undo the humiliation. I didn't shout, I didn't gloat. I let the evidence speak for itself. By the end of the evening, Ethan slouched quietly, no one cheering for him, no one clapping. I had not only proven my worth but also exposed the truth of favoritism, arrogance, and judgment that had ruled my family for years. And as I left the gathering, head held high, I felt a rush of liberation and triumph, the kind that only comes when an underdog finally claims what was always theirs. The shock, the power shift, and the emotional satisfaction were complete. And everyone who had doubted me now had to acknowledge the unstoppable force I had become. Weeks after that night, my life had changed completely. My parents no longer treated me like the rebellious child who had to apologize to Ethan. They couldn't ignore the empire I had quietly built in their shadows. Invitations came from investors, friends I had lost touch with, even former classmates who had mocked me. Everyone wanted a piece of the girl they had once dismissed. Ethan? He tried to act like nothing had changed, but I saw the cracks in his confidence every time we crossed paths. He was still the golden boy in their eyes, but everyone else now saw him for what he really was: ordinary, unprepared, and outshined. I didn't need to gloat. My success spoke louder than any words. One evening, my parents finally asked me to sit down. Camila, we didn't realize. My mother began, her voice hesitant, filled with a mix of shame and awe. I just smiled, calm and unshaken. You didn't see me because you weren't looking. You thought success had to look like Ethan, but it didn't. I built my own path and it's stronger than anything you imagined. That moment, seeing their silent regret, was the last piece of satisfaction I needed. I had gone from being the overlooked underdog to the unstoppable force they could no longer control. Every insult, every pause of my schooling, every moment they tried to break me had only fueled my determination. I was no longer the girl who begged for approval. I was the woman who created her own destiny, with every door opening because of my hard work, vision, and relentless drive. And as I stood on the balcony that night, looking out over the city lights that reflected my achievements, I realized something powerful. Revenge isn't just about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right. The underdog can rise, the overlooked can dominate, and the quietest voices can echo the loudest. My life was proof that no one, not even your family, can define your worth. And that realization, that freedom, was worth more than all the apologies I had ever been forced to give.